180 grit. Nice no-load sandpaper. The thing is with body putty, it does tend to load up the sandpaper a little bit if you're using a cheaper brand. So get some good no-load paper and have at it. All we're trying to do now is take off as much of the filler as we can and leave it only in the low spots. So I'll try and hold this up and see the area that I've already done. You can see here in this area and down here that there's some low spots there, and the filler's nicely brought that level with the surface. And also in areas where there's open weave of cloth right around the lip here, you can see it sunk right into the weave that was not completely filled with resin, and filled that up nicely. So off we go. Sand, sand, sand. A lot of sanding to get a good finish. So it's some work, but it's all worth it in the long run. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep sanding. And once we're a bit closer to the end, we'll switch the camera back on. So I've finished off with the 180 grit. You can see most of the fillers off. I've left some in the low spots. I'm going to switch now to 320, and I'm going to concentrate on those low spots a bit more, just to make sure that everything is nice and even, and polish it up and get it ready for primer. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'm going to do that, and we'll be ready for primer very soon. So we're all sanded up, and you can see that there's not a lot of primer left on, or sorry, not a lot of filler left on here compared to when we started. So like I said, that adds next to no weight, and everything's nice and level. What I'm going to do now, I vacuumed it with a shop vac. I'm just going to take some isopropyl alcohol and a paper towel, soak it down, and I'm going to just wipe it all up and get off as much dust as I can in preparation for putting the primer on the next step. And you can see the dust is coming off on the paper towel. You can see all the red residue. So it's an important step. When you think the vacuum's got it all, it hasn't. There's still stuff left. And you can see how much dust really is there. So it's an important step. Don't omit it. Next step is priming. I use this brand of primer. It works really well for me. I got it at Canadian Tire. It's their store brand, but I imagine anywhere, any auto body supply place or auto parts shop will have it. There's two kinds of primer. One is meant just as a surface prep for paint, and it doesn't fill scratches or anything. This stuff here, you notice it says scratch filler and primer. I like to use this because this gets into the weave of the cloth a bit more than the putty does, and it sands really well. That's the important bit, is the sanding. When you put it on, very light coats only. If you read the label, it says it'll fill scratches up to a 1/16 of an inch thick. That doesn't mean try to put on a layer of paint that's a 1/16 of an inch thick, because that'll just be a mess. Light coats only, and then sanding. So this is all dry and ready to go, and I've got a little clamp on here so that I don't get paint all over my hands. So I'm going to take that outside and spray it. I'm not going to do it inside. It'd be a bad idea right next to the gas water heater. Back shortly. So here's our cowl with the first coat of primer on it. You can see it's quite a thin coat. You can see the balsa weave through there. Try and avoid runs as much as you can when you spray it on, so that's why, again, why we're keeping it thin. And you can see the primer really starts to highlight any voids or flaws that we didn't see. If you look right here where my finger is, you can see there's a couple of pinholes in the cloth. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go back with some body putty, fill that up. Now you got to be careful when you mix and match materials. These two products are both they're lacquer based, so I know they're compatible. I've used them before, and you can put one right over top of the other. So I'm going to just take a little body putty. If I start to slur my words, it's because I've been breathing too many fumes. And just lightly put some putty on that. That'll dry really quick, and we'll sand that down. And then we'll sand the primer, and we'll prime again.